Bienvenida a toda la región al sexto capítulo del podcast de XFinTank. Hoy en día tenemos un gran invitado que lo vamos a entrevistar en inglés, in English. So we will turn in English like very soon, but vamos a entrevistarlo, introducirlo a ustedes en español. Diego Pérez es presidente de AB Fintechs, es CEO y co-founder de SMU Investmentos, and he got a very long experience in the fintech industry, and a long history in the legal industry too. And he mixed those both industry in one, and he's working since then in the fintech industry. So Diego, welcome to our podcast.
Okay, thank you very much, Rafael. It's a pleasure to be here alongside my good friend Rafael Gago. We know each other for a couple of years, and it's impressive what we have been done so far. But it's especially here to talk with your audience, to say something about Brazil, something about myself, and also what we are looking for 2024 on the fintech scenario, especially in Brazil. But we can talk overall, not only Brazil. I'm a citizen of the world, you know. I've been traveling a lot, so I'm here to talk the best that I can.
Yeah, thanks you. You're very welcome. Maybe we can start about your story, because you in 2023 you start like studying your bachelor of law in Brazil, and then what happened? How do you arrive, and then how was your trip until you reach your position in AB Fintechs and you create SMU Investmentos?
Perfect. Well, it's a very long story. If I had 2 or 3 hours, I would say in details, but the time is short. So I'll try to synthesize. Well, I always loved technology. I'd always been connected with technology. Since when I was a child, I had computers. I use it to study a lot and how to connect to servers in the internet and how to develop websites and so on. But when I started my professional life, I was working in an insurance company in the law department, the legal department especially. So it was a moment that was my first contact with the corporation, you know, how to interacting in corporations in a work space. So it was something that changed the way you saw the world, you know, because when you are young, you usually you don't think about that stuff, you know. How is the office life, you know? So it was my first contact with this kind of environment. But then I was influenced to study the law, so I got a law degree. But the technology was always following me, you know, in every sense. So after that, I started working in law firms, and most of the clients of those law firms were tech companies or banks, you know. So there's the intersection of technology and banks, because the banks, not only Brazil but elsewhere, they are investors in technology. You know, they put a lot of money in technology, because if you are handling the money of your client, you have to show them that you are in a secure environment and you have all the stuff, the basic stuff, not all the basic, but all the best stuff when it comes to technology, to provide a reliable services for them. You know, so they invest a lot of money in technology. And also, there's just a few lawyers there's are very familiar with the technology space and how things happen and so on. So I decided to follow this path. You know, the law focus on technology, but after that, I had contact with entrepreneurship, especially startups. You know, because I used to advise some small companies when they receive investments, especially angel investments and venture capital investments. It's something back 10 years ago, and it was something very new for me. For, whoa, it's amazing. So you can fundraise money to start a business, and then you got rich in just 2 years. Wow. Why I didn't thought about that earlier. So I decided to change the position. So I moved it from the legal space to the entrepreneur space. Focus on how to get rich and how to get famous and and so on, and how to become a unicorn founder. But then you see the reality. It's not that easy, to put a company, to set up a company from the grounds, from the scratch. So I decided to focus it on the best that I know, that is regulation, and considering my background on financial services, because I worked with the banks in the past. So I took advantage of this experience that I have accumulated over the years, and decided to start a business focused on technology and financial services, a fintech. But it was in 2013. There maybe no fintechs, or the word fintechs was something that you never heard about it. And then I saw that as a lawyer, with this background on regulation, on banking regulation and capital markets regulation, I could see the opportunities, because the market was heavily regulated and very bureaucratic. But with the use of technology, you could go forward. You could see the innovation happening. So I decided to try this path, and 10 years now, from there now, I'm here. I'm the president of AB Fintechs, which is the Fintech Association of Brazil. We are a group of 700 fintechs, about 700 fintechs in Brazil, in a universe of 1,400 fintechs. So 50% of the market are under our umbrella, and we are representing the interests of those fintechs before the regulators here. Not exactly here, because I'm not in Brazil by now, but in Brazil, and try to make things easier and better for them. So basically, this is I've been done so far in the past 10 years.
Nice, nice. I think it sounds a very interesting trip. And can you explain us about SMU Investimentos, how it works, like in a very simple manner?
Sure, sure. Well, SMU stands for Start Me Up, which is a famous song from the Rolling Stones. I don't know if you know Start Me Up. So this was our inspiration, because we developed a platform that connects the investors to startups, okay, digitally. So a startup
Nice.
that was looking for investors to support their growth could be in touch with these investors throughout our platform. So we could create a community of around 3,000 investors with the willingness to invest in startups in Brazil. So we gave them the opportunity to invest in the startup companies that we selected. And also, we could offer to the startups the opportunity to pitch themselves to those investors in a platform. But not only Brazil, any part of the world, if you made a public investment opportunity, so if an investment opportunity is available to the general public, you need to be authorized before the Comissão de Valores, which is something like the SEC of the United States, because it's a regulated market. There's some rules that you have to look for after, and also you have to be authorized to prospect investors, to solicit investors to put money in a startup company, for instance. So that was the first challenge that I could overcome in my career, to try to communicate with the regulator, and telling them, oh, the crowdfunding is something that is already happening in the UK, in Europe, in the US. Here in Brazil, it's not happening yet. I would like to start this operation here in Brazil. but I will only start it with the proper authorization. But at that time, there wasn't a regulatory framework for crowdfunding in Brazil. It was something unpredictable. You couldn't predict that it's going to happen in 2013, 2014. It was something that appeared, came out of the blue, you know. So the regulators they were quite aware of the crowdfunding in other regions, and they were waiting for the first movement in Brazil. And not only myself, I have competitors that start operations in the same time in the past. So we organize ourselves to collectively talk, interact with the regulator, and to propose a legal framework or a regulatory framework for this new activity in a way that is easy to handle, but it's something that could not struggle the crowdfunding in Brazil in the first movements. So it was something very very important. Yeah, because without this interaction with the regulator, I could believe the fintech environment in Brazil wouldn't happen that fast as it happened. You know, so we could open the doors for these interactions with the regulators, and the regulators could understand that there's some entrepreneurs in Brazil trying to do something legal, something that is not wrong, you know, but trying to use the technology to make things easier and more available with a low cost for the end user. So it's something that you develop the market. So it was something very important for the fintech market in Brazil.
Nice, nice. It sounds a very, very important history, and I think that you lead many other regulations because you try to lead this crowdfunding regulation in Brazil, but after that, many other countries in Latin America they start like trying to create their own regulation for that purpose. And maybe can you understand? Can you explain us actually your what the AB Fintechs do, the association, the fintech Brazilian fintech associations do in the daily basis?
Okay, perfect. So back in time, in this first movement of the crowdfunding in Brazil, uh, it was something that the regulator suggested to us to create an association. You know, plus now I know that there is more one challenger trying to develop the crowdfunding here in Brazil. Why don't you create a crowdfunding association? You know, so we created a crowdfunding association, and after that another associations start to came up, like a digital loans associations, a peer-to-peer lending association, a crypto associations. So it was something that started to spread in Brazil, these association movements, you know. So we decided it was something that would better organize this industry if you created an association of associations, you know, something like that,
Yeah.
because it was very spread throughout Brazil, and the regulators start to become confusing, you know, sometimes overwhelming with the requests to start meetings and to try to develop new activities. And they said, no, guys, wait a moment. Let's organize it. There's a lot of associations. So we create a association of that could comprise all the sectors in Brazil. That's why we have AB Fintechs, which is the Fintech Association of Brazil. So it was the
And
first movement. It was in 2016, I believe. I'm not one of the co-founders. I came afterwards, uh, but the AB Fintechs was inspired by the association that I created, the crowdfunding association. You know, so they invited me to stay around to help them, to advise them how to create association, how to start conversations with the regulators and the proper way and the better way. So they got my attention, and I think, well, maybe I should move from the crowdfunding association to a fintech association because it's a broader spectrum. we are going to discuss in a high level positions with the lawmakers, the monetary authorities in Brazil. So the crowdfunding is just the tip of the iceberg, you know. So I moved from the Crowdfunding Association to the FinTech Association in 2018 when I was somehow invited to be part of the board of directors. And from then, I began to increase my status inside of the AB Fintechs and reaching the position of president with the latest status that we have there. So I'm on the second term now. The first term was between 2020 and 21, and now I'm the second term, 22 to 23. I have extended my position as president until the end of 2024. So I'm going to stay until the next year, to the end of the next year, as the president. I don't know about the future, if I'm going to stay longer, or if the members of the association would request me to stay. It's something that is democratic, you know. So I'm not the ruler or the dictator of the fintechs in Brazil. But I'm looking very forward for the future because the market in Brazil is growing very fast, and there's a lot of things happening, and we are surfing this wave, you know.
And how we can what we can expect about the 2024? Where are the tendencies of the for the fintech Brazilian market?
Well, that's an interesting question because we could see some developments in Brazil so far, especially with the open finance infrastructure, the PIX, with the fast payments in Brazil system, fast payment system in Brazil. And now we have some developments in the DRAX with the digital version of the Brazilian currency. And for the future, especially 2024, I believe those three platforms are going to be connected somehow, you know. So some features maybe will navigate throughout all those platforms, you know. So you can create a smart contract that tokenizes Brazilian bonds through DRAX, and the payments must be done through the investors by the peaks, and the open finance will orchestrate all the movements of the assets in the Brazilian markets.
Wow.
So I believe the platforms, the fintechs in Brazil that see they had this vision, the interoperability and interconnectivity of those platforms, they are going to move faster and they are going to win this game. You know, so there's a specific word that is being said in Brazil recently, which is the super apps, the financial super apps. You know, so we have some payment institutions in Brazil like PicPay, like Nubank, like Inter, and so on. They are the major ones. They started their operation offering basic payment services, you know, but now you can do everything in those apps. You can invest, you can hire insurance, you can uh, put money in crypto, you know, everything in a single screen. And with the open finance, you can connect all the other bank accounts that you have in a single screen, in a single app. So I think this is the word for 2024: super financial super app.
Nice. I think yeah. I think it's the conclusion of many processes in Brazil. And which are the technologies that will foster? Because we talk about peaks, or maybe they are like models, but what are the technologies that will rule or will make like more changes in the fintech spectrum?
Okay. Well, uh, I'm an enthusiastic of the blockchain technology, you know, and the authorities here in Brazil, especially the governor of the Brazilian Central Bank, Mr. Roberto Campos Neto, he used to say that the economy in Brazil are going to be fully tokenized in just a few years, you know.
Wow.
And also, the president of the Brazilian Investment Commission, the Comissão de Valores de Brazil, uh, João Pedro Nascimento, he used to say that the capital market is going to be green and tokenize it. So yeah, so if you see both authorities, they are saying they are using the same word, tokenization. So and the tokenization is only possible with the blockchain technology. So I believe that there's a lot of things to come. We are only in the first steps of this technology because blockchain exists by 12 years, I believe, and everything's going to be developed on top of the blockchain in the future. But you can keep the artificial intelligence aside of this conversation. I would say that the blockchain is the body, and the artificial intelligence is the soul. So if you put all the both technologies together, you will create a monster in a good way, and it fits like a glove for financial services. So if you have plans to 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 develop your career in technology space, I would recommend you to study blockchain and artificial intelligence.
Nice. That's a very good recommendation. And and changing the topic like radically, uh, maybe we can speak about the relationship with the regulators in Brazil, because the rest of Latin America, we watch the Brazil implementation of the open finance and open insurance, and that's for us it's like kind of crazy, because I think that the regulator and the state of Brazil, they there was a very fast change into the implementations of open finance, and that's why you're like further and maybe more advanced in the region in the open finance sphere. So
Okay.
what do you want to how do you explain this relationship with the regulators in Brazil?
Okay. Well, this is something that is happening in Brazil for more than 10 years, so it's not something that it's exclusively or particularly from the currently president of the Brazilian Central Bank or the currently president of the Brazilian Investment Commissions. It's something that was developed back in 2010, I believe. So the first movement in Brazil was to create a payment infrastructure, you know, especially for electronic transactions. Because in the past, we had only two big players in this market in Brazil, and both were linked or were part of banks. So it was something exclusively for big banks. But the Brazilian authorities, they have a goal to promote competition and to promote efficiency and to promote a better system for the end users here in Brazil. So they passed a bill in the Brazilian Congress, the Brazilian Parliament, to implement the payment system in Brazil. And it was something that changed the game. It was a game changer for that time because you open space for newcomers. After that, we had more than 200 companies offering payments in Brazil. You know, so the focus is you have to give opportunities for the newcomers, for the new challengers. You have to offer a regulation that is friendly for the new companies that are going to or trying to develop something new in Brazil. Otherwise, it's going to be very concentrated in 4 or 5 banks. And once you have 4 or 5 banks handling 50, 60, 70% of the bank accounts in Brazil, there's a lack of competition. They don't have the willingness to move forward because they are very profitable with the couple of millions users that they have, and the shareholders are very happy with the dividends that they receive. So they don't have the encouragement to go forward. So you have to promote competition. You have to open the market. You have to open space for newcomers. So this is something that we are working in Brazil for the past 10 years. And now we are seeing the results, the outcomes that we have reached so far. So my recommendation for the professionals that work with regulatory development in Latin America, like myself, like yourself, like our friends from FIA, and like all others, it's try to promote the openness of the market, try to promote the fair competition, okay, and open space for newcomers, open space through the technology, through the innovation. This is something that is going to happen naturally if you offer the basis for them to create innovation.
Nice. It's a very good conclusion of how we can relate to regulators and regulation in Latin America. And there's a myth in the rest of Latin America that it's difficult as a fintech to enter in the Brazilian market. So if I am a Colombian or Chilean or Argentinian fintech and I want to expand my business into Brazil, it will be difficult. Which is your vision? Do you have an invitation to enter to the Brazilian market? Which is your vision about it?
Yeah, you use a very precise word, myth. This is a myth. Why I believe this is a myth? Because we have some incredible fintechs here in Brazil that they are already originally from Argentina, like Mercado Pago, like Pomelo, uh, RegCheck from Chile, okay, Bitso from Mexico, and they have incredible services. They offer incredible services in Brazil, you know, and also they could see the opportunity. Brazil is gigantic. We have more than 200 million people, all of them eager to know the technology. In Brazil, we have more smartphones than population. We have 220 million people, and we have more than 300 million active smartphones in Brazil. So
Wow.
the platform is already there. The connectivity is already there. All the capitals in Brazil are connected to the 5G technology. So if you want to offer a financial service in Brazil, you don't need to have branches spread all over the country, all over the territory of Brazil. You can develop an app and put in an app store in Google Store. This is how you do business in nowadays. But something that I used to say that Brazil is not for amateurs. This is a Brazilian quote. Brasil não é para amadores. It's not for amateurs in Portuguese. Because we have a lot of regulation, as they used to say, red tape. Now, when you have a lot of bureaucracy, we have a very big red tape. But over the years, we are working to streamline all the process and to make things easier. And it's something that it's not connected to some political agenda or left wings or the right wings, because in the past we had a left government that proposed all this payment system that I mentioned, and the prior government Bolsonaro, they provided the bureaucratization of process here in Brazil, and now we are looking for the future. I believe the fintech environment is bigger than politics. We can we will exist over the time. It doesn't matter who is in charge. So it's something that you have to be aware of the bureaucracy in Brazil. But I believe it's the same in Argentina, in Chile, in Colombia. It's something that the entrepreneurs locally are quite aware. Maybe Chile it's better. I know the regulation in Chile. But you just have to be in partner with a good lawyer in Brazil. Just this. The rest is going to happen very fast.
Thanks you very much, and for this invitation, Diego. For all Latin Americans that want to enter into the Brazilian market, maybe try. It doesn't matter, as you say, you need to put a lot of branches or buildings or maybe hire a lot of people, or maybe invest like millions, you're gonna start like putting your app in the app store, or maybe something like this,
Yeah,
or
or maybe in a
maybe
specific region. How many people do you have in Chile? The population of
20
Chile?
million,
20
20.
million. Okay, 20 million is just the city of São Paulo. You know, so see, so if you think all the population of Chile is very big, the population of the city of São Paulo is bigger than the population of Chile. So you can start in São Paulo, or maybe you can start in another region, a smaller one like Brasilia, the capital. They have 4 million people, or Rio de Janeiro, they have 6 million people. Or you can focus on a specific group like youngsters or elderless or people with low income. There there's a lot of opportunities and there's a lot of paths that you can go forward in Brazil. So I'm very happy to say that, because I see the opportunities and I see the people when I ask, why don't you go to Brazil? Oh, I think there's a language barrier. I think there's a cultural thing. I don't know. I prefer to go to Paraguay, to Peru. Okay, go to Paraguay, go to Peru, but consider Brazil as well. Okay, you can start both operations, start operation in Uruguay and in Brazil at the same time. Then you see what
Yeah,
happens. So yeah, so it's you have to think globally, not locally. When it comes to fintech. So I reinforce this invitation. Go to Brazil
yeah.
if you are an entrepreneur, and you have the eager to conquer new customers and to work in a space with 200 million people. Brazil is right beside.
Thanks you, and a very encouraged and very interesting invitation to all of them. And actually, for closing, actually we can remember the event that you host in Brazil. When is going to
Yeah.
be the next event of AB Fintechs?
Oh, perfect. Well, we have our annual event, which is the FinTouch. It's our showcase, so it happened yearly in September. We already have the dates, but we are about to set the specific date. It will probably happen at the September 19th. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but if it's not in the 19th, it's going to happen the same week. So that's the week, you know,
Yes.
the
So
third week of September.
so
That's
the invitation is to schedule the third week of September, that you need to travel to Sao Paulo to
yeah.
visit, and maybe learn about how the Brazilians are going about fintech, and start your
And create the connections,
create the
because we have in Brazil a lot of tech providers that can enable uh, your operations in Brazil. Because if you want to start a payment service in Brazil, you have to be regulated. You have to be registered before the Brazilian Central Bank. But if you hire a bank as a service platform, you can start your operation, create awareness, build a community, and then after you go after for the registration. So everything is very
nice.
well developed, and we have a lot of connections to offer in this event, because the brightest minds of the fintech industry are going to be there. And we divide this event into arenas, into stages. The first stage, which is the focus of the associations, is regulation. So the directors and authorities from the Brazilian Central Bank, the Commission of Investments of Brazil is going to be there. The lawmakers, some lawmakers, and other ones related to specific segments. They are going to be there, and the other stage is focused on business and technology, and usually we mix then to offer a good experience for the audience of the event. So I invite all of you to be there in São Paulo at the third week of September next year.
Perfect, perfect. So uh, I, I'm very glad. I'm very glad that that you accept our invitation to this podcast. I hope that it's not the last one; it's the first one.
Yeah.
So I happy New Year, my friend, and see you
Okay.
in the next time. And
If
enjoy
if if,
your
if just
vacations.
if I
Yeah, of
can
course.
add
Go on.
just a small thing, just a small thing. I
Yeah,
would like to encourage you to keep this conversation alive, obviously, but try to make more episodes in English because despite the fact we speak a broken English, we are very afraid to speak in English in public and so on.
yeah,
But it's important to showcase to the world that Latin America is vibrant and everything is happening in Latin America. Because I used to travel to Europe, to Asia, to the States to understand what is happening there, but also to speak about Brazil. And usually they don't know nothing, because we don't have content in English. So it's important to communicate with them for them to see what we are doing in South America, especially, but in all Latin America. So I'm encouraging you to make one more episode in English with another
yeah. Of course.
invited because it's something that we have to do, and I'm very happy to be here as well.
No,
Congratulations for
yeah.
the podcast.
No, thanks. Yeah, and it's something that other regions are doing because European fintechs they speak in English, African ones they speak in English, Asian ones they speak in English. So our region is speaking in Spanish, but we need to or Portuguese, but we need to communicate in English so the world can understand which is the development that we are doing here. So I will take your invitation right away, my friend. And yeah, thanks you for being here and happy new year in advance. Thanks you
Happy New
very
Year.
much.
Bye
Thanks,
bye.
yeah. Bye bye.